Hi, Steve Gamache here with another Chef Knives to Go quick look product review. We have a very interesting knife this time. This is the Yamashin Shitogami or White Number 1 Kiri Cleaver 180mm knife. So this knife has a 3-layer construction. The center core cutting edge steel that comes down the middle towards the edge. That is Shitogami or White Paper Number 1 Reactive High Carbon Steel. Heat treats on the 60 to 61 Rockwell target on that. And what they do is on either side of that reactive core steel, they put a soft iron reactive cladding. So this is an all reactive blade. There's no stainless, semi-stainless, or anything on it. And then that cladding they coat with a protective blacksmith or what's known as a Kuuchi finish or KU finish on each side. And I believe this has some lacquer on it. It looks like it has lacquer on it as well for additional layers. It's got some food safe lacquer that will wear off with time. So you can tell this is a very interesting shape. They describe a little bit about that shape on the product page. Kind of looks a little medieval to me. It looks pretty cool. So it's a neat looking knife. Definitely a little bit something different. So you can tell it's got a fairly curvy profile, and obviously the kind of the reverse sword tip on it for like a bunka style tip on it. So weights and dimensions definitely going to vary a little bit from knife to knife because the way these are hammered out and finished. So this particular one is 311 grams, or about 11 ounces. And the edge length, the usable length from the tip to the back here, is about 7.4 inches or 187 millimeters. And the overall length is about 343 millimeters or 13.5 inches. This knife is fairly thick towards the back, as you might expect. It's got about a 3.5 millimeter spine towards the back, and then about halfway down I got 2.7, and it pretty much holds that 2.5-ish until you get to the corner here, and then it still holds that same basic thickness. There's some variation just because of the hammering and the finish job, the way they pounded it out. And then you can see the grind's not super tall on this, but then it thins out towards the tip. So we're not showing a super skinny tip here, as you might expect, but there it is. And then here's what the profile looks like from the back of the blade. So this blade is meaty. It's quite stiff. It does thin out pretty nice at the edge, but you know, you're gonna pop off that edge pretty quick into the thickness of the blade. So this should have pretty good food separation for sure, and the texture should help with food release as well. Blade height, I got about 83 at the back and 88 at the middle, so it definitely gains height towards the middle of the blade and towards the front. Handle is kind of no frills, just nicely done, octagonal, ambidextrous walnut handle with a black peckerwood ferrule, and they've got a pretty decent glue up job, but there are some gaps in here where the tang goes in, so you'll want to go ahead and seal that with something so you don't get any water in there. This is not a stainless blade in any manner, so you don't want that tang to start rusting. The handle, as you might expect, is rather light compared to the blade, so the balance point is going to be really far forward. The handle circumference is about 3 inches where the two materials meet. Balance point on this guy is going to be fairly far forward. It's because of how tall and heavy and thick the blade is, but there's your balance point. About right there. Pinch grip, definitely behind that. This has some mass to it. Obviously it's 11 ounces, but that's the idea behind it, is you can let the weight of that blade do the job for you. Fit and finish is rustic, but pretty nice. It's kind of a refined, slightly refined rustic type finish. See if we can get a good view of that. That looks pretty good. You've got kind of a light texture to it and some hammering. You can kind of see some texture and facets to the hammering. On the right side of the blade, you've got some embossed. Let me get this thing to pick it up here. It's probably as good as anything. Got some embossed kanji there on that side of the blade. You can definitely see the texture. I think a little bit of that is the lacquer, smoothing that out. But there's the left side of the blade. The cool thing about this is every blade is going to be unique. This is the core steel peeking up from the edge, and then the edge bevel right there. Out of the box edge, I'll give it a 5 out of 10. It's decent, but you can get it a lot better. So this will sharpen up nicely for you. Almost nothing sharpens up as easily as Shitogami number 1. It's fantastic to sharpen, and so that should make this thing a real pleasure to sharpen and keep sharp. It's fun to sharpen, and it makes you feel like a sharpening champ because the steel sharpens so easily. So let's take a look at the cutting board. As I said, this is kind of a curvy profile, and yes, it is. So this is not like our pure chopper. You'll have to see, you can read about the shape of the blade, but definitely made for movement when cutting, not just straight up and down. You can definitely rock this guy quite a bit here. But that's what your profile looks on there. Everyone's going to be slightly different, but I would think they're all going to be fairly curvy as this representation shows. So a very interesting blade. Again, read about it on the Chef Knives to Go product page for a little bit about the blade shape and use, but really neat product. Cool looking, very different. This is the Yamashin Shidogami or white number 1 Kiri Cleaver 180mm knife.